Hi everybody, Brienne here from Pigment, and today I'm going to be coloring a gothic inspired sugar skull. Now there might be some bright colors in here. I'm not 100% sure exactly what I'm going to do today, but I do know that it's going to be a little bit darker of a feel, and there might be some bright colors for pop kind of happening in the background. I'm going to try and make this really cool and different. That's what I know for sure. So I'm just going to go over my techniques for kind of doing the effects I'm going to be doing for the background and some of the effects for the florals, how to get texture in there, how to make them look somewhat realistic, and then of course how to color the actual skull and to make it your own kind of style. So with that being said, let's get started. I did make my own palette for this today. And it's called Sugar Skull. That's what I named it. So I'm just going to go to freehand mode for a second because I want to play around with my background and get that in place. The reason why I do the background first a lot of times is because it gives me ideas for my actual picture. If I have all these colors and all this funky stuff happening in the background, or if I come up with a sunset or a starlit sky, then it gives me ideas how to color my piece. So that is what we're going to do right now. I put it on freehand, like I said. I'm going to go to my fills. And I start off a lot of my pieces like this because I just find it's a really nice way to get colors blended gradiently. And then you can add texture and tools, different tools to it after. So I'm going to grab this purple. I'm going to deepen it up. And I'm just going to bring it through here. See how it goes gradient? And then I'm going to do the blue. I just want this like kind of dark background, but not too dark, if that makes sense. And then I'm going to go to bloom. I'm going to try a couple different things until I'm happy with what I got here. That actually doesn't look too bad. I might skip the bloom and actually go to my watercolor. I'm going to bring my opacity up just a bit and my brush size up a lot, just to start. And we'll see what kind of mess we can get into. So I really want a seamless background. That's why I put it on freehand mode. That way it's not getting in my way. I don't think I like the pink in there. I do need some kind of brighter color, not pink quite yet. So I'm trying to make like a dark but bright background, if that makes sense. Because I want it to be like known as a sugar skull, but I also kind of want that that dark kind of Day of the Dead feel. The Day of the Dead, if you look at it, if you look at any of their stuff that they bring out in the open, it's all kind of like really bright but dark at the same time. Could be wrong, but that's what I noticed from my perspective anyway. So that's kind of what inspired me. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to put pink in here now that I got some orange in there, because the pink is actually lighting up a lot better now. Okay. This yellow. Okay. Deepen up this purple. I'm just kind of trying to blend it so the color pops, but it's not totally taking over the picture. And I might just outsource one color. I just need like a green. I just feel like I'm missing green in here, even though the yellow and the blue is almost kind of making like a green. back to my sugar skull. Okay. And it's all in how you kind of layer colors with watercolor that kind of makes them like work or not work. I'm actually going to go to my recently used colors. It's taking over a bit more of the picture than I thought it would, but that's okay. I'm just going with whatever I'm finding is looking best as I'm kind of dabbing these colors in. So that's good for our background for now. I'm probably going to come back to this though and why is it, oh, I was stuck there for a minute. I'm probably going to come back to this and I'm probably going to adjust this a little bit. But I just want to get my main colors kind of in there seamlessly, and then coming back is not a huge issue. As long as I got my colors where I want them to be, then that's fine. Nothing wrong with coming back and adjusting after. Okay, so there we go. That's going to be somewhat of my background here. Just fixing it a little bit there. Yeah, I'm just gonna wait. I'll come back and fix it when I see how my piece is colored a bit more. Then I'll know exactly what I want to do. Just add a little bit more blue. It's so hard to, I just get tap happy. It's hard pulling myself away. Okay. There. Okay, it's enough. Now I'm gonna probably do my skull like a dark kind of purplish color, I'm gonna say. Now I'm gonna leave it on freehand mode because I can get into all my areas without have to worrying about the lines. So I'm going to go to, I do want to lay down, I'm just trying to think here. Let's go with paintbrush just for now. I just want to see how I can kind of make this go. Okay. Brush size up, opacity down just a bit. And I'm just brushing this very gently with this bright purple, basically a neon purple. I don't want to lose all my colors. I'm probably going to add some of those colors actually back in. I'm going to bring my brush size down a bit. I'm going to go back and forth with my brush size. I think it might be wise to actually use, I really kind of want a blended look before I add texture. So I'm going to hop over to my airbrush. And then I'll probably go back to my pencil and paintbrush after. Really just kind of want to get my shading and coloration in place that I want. So I'm just using the airbrush to kind of apply like a deeper purple, but it's not going to stay as deep as it's looking. I'm just applying it really deep right now because I want to get a layered effect with the purple. So I'm putting it on thick at first, but it won't look this thick when I'm done. mainly around the edges, even though I will be probably putting some highlighting in the edges as well. So I am on freehand mode for this right now, so I can color effortlessly through these lines. Okay. Now I am going to grab my pencil, and I'm just going to start brushing on this like neon orange under the cheeks and through the skull. I'm not worried about staying within the lines. That's not the purpose of the coloring right now, is not to be in the lines. It's just those are the decorations on the skull, but the skull is actually going to be meant to look a little bit different. So I'm going to add texture to it with the pencil. As you can see, you get like that textured look. And that's why I wanted the dark underneath as well, because then you can see more of the texture, I find. I really like this orange with the purple. I think it looks really good. So I'm going to go back to that. I'm just going to fill in these eyes a bit more with the dark. And then probably add just a little bit of light here. And around the nose as well. Maybe blue. I really kind of want to go for this like dark effect, but like with neon colors. I guess that's what I was trying to kind of explain before. I really want to make it a sugar skull. So I'm just brushing this pencil very, very gently. I'm using practically zero pressure. And look at the coverage I'm getting with very, very minimal pressure. You don't have to press hard to get this effect. I press a little bit harder in certain areas. Like right now I'm pressing a touch harder, but still very light. It's all kind of about when you're coloring digitally. If I can offer a piece of advice, is pressure. Adding too much pressure is probably not the greatest thing that you can do, because with digital coloring, you will color over anything that you've already done. And if you're trying to do like layered texture and stuff like that, you're just going to be fighting a never-ending battle of covering up the work that you did. So I just recommend kind of playing with your pressure a little bit and figuring that out. And then when you're comfortable there, then you'll start getting like more layered, textured look. That's what I did with the eyes. I pressed very gently to get the look, and then I mixed in the green with the blue, and I didn't lose my texture. You can see that it's still there. Sometimes I blend out some of the texture with like the blur, the blender tool, but I try to get some texture down first, and then I kind of look back at my picture and see kind of where I want it a little bit smoother. And yeah, it's a lot of, it takes a while. It's a lot of practice and analyzing your own work. And if you're having trouble analyzing your work, get a friend or a loved one to help you. Sometimes it's hard to see what else needs to be done, and then getting a third point of view or a second point of view kind of puts you in the right direction again. So I'm just adding these colors all throughout the skull, kind of using them as highlighting, as shading. All these neon colors work beautifully for highlighting and layering, so I'm just kind of doing that. Now I'll probably put it on automatic for a second, and I'm just going to bring down my opacity. I'm just gonna touch up around here. I'm using the pencil tool. You can go back to the watercolor if you like. If you don't want to get too many different kind of things happening. If you drag the brush, you're going to get a different effect than if you tap. If you drag, you get more area coverage quicker. And you might not want that. You might want it to look more like texturized. Hold on. Sometimes it freezes up. Okay. Now back to pencil. And I'm just kind of adding some shadows in that I kind of took away. Just adding them back in there a little bit. Especially around the roses, I'm going to want to be a little bit darker, a little bit more shaded. Now, I was thinking about doing these roses red, but I'm not sure about that now. We will see. I'm gonna try and finish up his teeth. I'm not sure what I want to do with his teeth yet. Then I might go to blur. Make sure it's on automatic. Maybe I'll just blur these teeth colors together. Go back to my pencil. There is a little bit more color that I want to add in there. So I'm just going to go a little bit more around the gum line. I do want it to look a little bit differentiated from the purple. So I'm just going to add a little bit more yellow in there I'm pressing very, very gently. A little bit more green. And then I might add just a little bit of shading here. And up here on the gum line. Just trying to get a nice balance here before I blend again. Okay, now go back to my blur. I say blend, but it's really blur. And just want to make sure I'm on automatic here. And I'm just blurring each individual tooth. I'll probably go around the gum line a little bit here too, to blur it around the mouth and under here as well. I'm gonna blur some of this texture out. But not all of it. Going to put on freehand mode for a sec, just so I'm getting an even blur. I do want to keep the texture around the eyes. But everywhere else can be a little bit smoother. Just right here in the corner of the eye I'll do, but not under. Just not like the surrounding area, I meant just kind of around, gently blur. When you're on freehand mode, you do have to be a little bit careful that because it will blend outside the lines as well. So just keep that in mind. Then you're going to get this blended looking. Just going to bring up my brush size a bit here. I did blend in the eye, but not the nose or around. Okay, so I'm gonna leave that for now, and I'm gonna color in my flowers. I was thinking about doing like a contrast and doing them red, but I think with so much color going on, I'm gonna switch up what I thought I was going to do, and I'm actually going to fill with Pillow. And I'm gonna use like a dark purple gray to start. I'm gonna see how this works. Because we have all these bright colors around. I think it might look best if I do like a dark, almost like a black rose. So that is what I'm gonna try here. Those are leaves. So I'm just getting them filled so I can kind of see where they are with all this detailing on the skull. It's kind of hard to see my flowers. So I just want to get them colored and then I can go from there. Okay, now I'm thinking I'm not gonna do these leaves traditionally green. I'm actually gonna do them dark because I want them to blend in with the flowers. And there's no rules saying that they have to be green. You can do whatever you like. Oops. Here I go, hitting the eraser button again. So I'm doing them like a dark purple. I'm just making sure I got all my areas covered here. And with the roses, even just having color in, you can see a big difference in it already, so that's good. I'm gonna go to my pencil tool. I'm gonna make sure I'm on automatic here. I'm just actually for right now, put on freehand for a second. No, automatic it is. So I'm just shading around some areas that I might have missed, like that. And then I'm gonna add some texture to the rose. And some shading. Now I'm gonna want it on freehand. I'm just kind of rubbing with the pencil tool in a circular motion kind of around some areas that I think should be darker. And I'm doing it to all the roses. Because I want them to be pretty much like black roses, but they're not like a true black rose. They're not like black, but I don't think black roses are really black. They're more very, very dark gray or purpley almost. I'm sure some of them are true black, but mine aren't going to be black. Okay, and then with this bright purple, I'm just going to brush it very gently kind of around some of the edges. And I might do a little bit on the leaves. Just so they're not completely hidden. Just blending a bit more here. I might take some of this texture away with the blur tool. We'll see. Froze up again. I'm just trying to see if I added different colors, what it would look like. I'm going to go automatic mode for a second. I'm just going to add maybe a little bit of pink. We'll see. I actually don't mind it so far. Maybe just around some of the edges. I'm gonna blur it, so if it doesn't look perfect, that's okay. Yeah, it looks good. So I'm going to continue on with the pink and just highlighting the petals, basically around the edges, because I'm going to blur it together, I think. Kind of going over the lighter areas, the areas I didn't add a lot of dark. And just tapping with the pencil and sliding it across the edges of the lines and the rows on lighter edges. That's all I'm doing. Some darker edges too, I'm actually putting it in just to give it some balance. If it looks unbalanced, like in the highlighting, then I'll add a little bit to the darker edges. If you add a little bit more brightness, a little bit to the center, what I'm noticing right now, which I'm going to go and do a little bit, it just kind of adds a little bit of a glow to the rose, which isn't a bad thing. So I'm going to go and just add a little bit of brightness to parts of it. Sometimes you don't notice something that looks good until you're doing it. So it's always fun to try new things and discover new ways of kind of making something pretty. Lots of stuff I discover I don't plan, to be honest. It's hard to plan being artistic when you're being creative. I usually just let my brain kind of run away and have an imagination, and I just hope it takes me somewhere cool. And it usually doesn't disappoint me. I'm not going to say I never get blocked, but I rarely get blocked. If I get blocked, it's usually because I have too much going on and I just need to step away for a bit and come back when I feel re-energized. Can't force creativity. You gotta feel the creativity. Yeah, that looks good. And I'm using the pencil tool for this, which is a free tool for all users. And to be honest, it's an awesome free tool to have. It's one of my favorite tools, and I use it for a great many things. So amazing tool to start with if you don't have a premium. I'm actually not sure if I'm going to blur it a lot anymore. I'm kind of just digging the way it's looking. We'll see. I'm just noticing certain areas that need a little bit more layering. That's all I'm doing, especially around where the skull is, because I want the flowers to kind of stand out from the skull. So where the petals are kind of overlapping onto the face or the skull, I'm just kind of adding a deeper, darker highlight, pressing harder. But I always start out by being soft with my brush strokes until I'd rather layer a couple times and get a feel for what I'm doing than to just go in super strong and hard right away with my pressure on my pencil. And I'm sure you've noticed that I am using an iPad, but you can color Pigment pages on your phone as well, and on Android devices. So you don't have to have an iPad to color with Pigment. But if you are wondering what device I'm using, it is the iPad 2020 Pro with the 2nd generation Apple Pencil. Okay, So we got some stuff going on. I am going to blur the edges a bit, but I'm just going to go around and get some before, so I can kind of not have to go back and do it twice. I'm just going to put in a little bit of lighter area for my leaves because I'm probably going to blur that out too, just towards the center and along the inside of the leaf. I want to leave the edges dark. Okay, I might even add further highlights with the airbrush after, but for now I'm going to go to my blur. I'm going to bring my opacity up, maybe just down a bit, and then we're just going to do some of these edges here. I just want to see how it looks. You don't have to do the inner part of the flower, just any spots that you think could use a little bit of mixing. Wherever you feel it's necessary. You can use it on the whole flower, just the ridges. I'm probably going to be using it on the whole flower, most of it. But you still get texture. I'll leave some. I'm going to leave probably the darker parts textured, except for maybe around the base. And then just leave the texture going upward from there. Darker areas kind of blur a little bit. Blur is honestly one of my favorite tools. You can make a big mess of things and go in and blur it, and it just makes like an effortless, really cool background. Lots of times I'll just like dab dots with a technical pen and the splatter brush and just do all this quirky stuff in the background and just keep on going till I think it's enough, and then I go back and I blur it all together, and it looks like, sometimes it ends up looking like a tree, sometimes a bush, or like a galaxy, night sky. It's just, and it's good for making things if you're trying to make depth and you want some stuff close up and some stuff far away. If you think about a camera, when you take a picture and you're doing a portrait, the portrait looks close up, but everything in the background is blurry, right? So it's a good way and a good trick to do that. That's pretty much what it's used for, but I like using it for backgrounds and other stuff. There's so many fun things that you can do with this tool. I really suggest early users experimenting with the blur tool. And you can use the blender as well for blending your colors effortlessly. You just have to be careful with your opacity when you're using the blender. But the blender is also a very cool tool. They're all good tools, and they're all can be used in different ways to create different effects. So they're all great. Get to know them. I'm just going to blur the leaves a little bit through the center where I added that little bit of a lighter color. Just going to blur over here a little bit more. Leave some texture because it gives like a nice effect. Okay, so I am really liking this. I'm thinking it's looking really cool. I'm just going to take out my black for a minute, and I'm going to bring out my airbrush, and I'm actually going to go get a true black. You can get your true black from your dark fantasy palette, and go on freehand mode. And I'm just gonna add a little bit of shading in the corner of where the picture kind of ends. I want to add some depth to the skull. So I'm just adding a little bit of shading along the jawline. I just want it to have a little bit more depth, a little bit more dimension. I'm not doing a lot. I'll do a lot maybe in certain areas like that, and then just keep it thin in other areas. Kind of have to eye it out and see how you want it to look. This is going to be my last kind of step for shading here. Just want to get around the teeth a little bit too. I think the teeth could use a little bit more depth. You don't have to go crazy with it. You can leave it darker in some spots, lighter in others. Around the nose a bit. The airbrush is a really good tool for shading. It just works great wonders of magic. It's awesome. I'm going to fix the outer edges of the skull, but I'm not too worried about it for now. I just want to get that nice kind of even looking shading going on here. Just adding a little bit more to the chin. I don't want it to look straight. I want it to look like off-kiltered shading. That's the look I'm going for. Now I'm going to go to my watercolor and I'm going to put it on automatic, and I'm just going to fix up a couple things here. Maybe I'll just, it's hard to color match when you have so many colors kind of blended on top of each other. The colors are pretty neon looking, so I'll just go to my neon palette to fix it up. The whole point of shading a little bit deeper around the edges, it also is going to make the skull really pop now with these bright colors around it. So now it's really gonna pop, especially with this bright yellow. That's why I'm just kind of touching it up so I don't lose. What other colors did I have here? The pink. The orange. Yellow. Just green here. So that's why I said I would touch it up after when I was doing it in the beginning, because when your picture's done, you can kind of see where you're missing color, or you need to put new colors or fill it in and make it pop a little bit more. It's hard to tell sometimes before your picture is finished. So that's what I'm doing right now. And we can also blur some of this together if you want. It's not necessary, but sometimes it does look cool. I don't like over here what I did. Take it away. So you can press back quite a few times. So that's why I say don't be afraid to go back if you're not liking something. I do want it a little bit in there. Like I want the overlapping of the dark, but not too much. You know what I mean? Don't want to lose that color. And you can overlap back and forth. It gives a nice effect. So I got the dark overlapping with my spectrum all the way down on the purple there and on the blue I tried. And then if you want to overlap back, bring your brush size down and you can do it back, and it kind of adds this cool layered look. You got to play with your opacity and brush sizes though, so just take your time with that. I think I like it darker around the chin. Okay, and we can add a little bit more highlight to areas if you want. So if you really wanted to add a little bit more, you could go to your freehand mode, the airbrush, and you could add more highlight after just by sweeping your airbrush like underneath the cheekbones if you wanted it there. Just kind of blend it. Put it more up here. Go with the blue, do a little bit of blue. No, maybe not. Maybe just this fluorescent kind of orangey color. Just a little bit there. You can do anything that you want. I'm just trying to add the balance that I'm looking for here. And I did have a little bit of blue there. No, I like it dark. So I'm just mixing my colors until I'm happy. Just about done here. And you could even, if you want to deepen that pink that you have going on up here, go with your airbrush tool. Make sure you're on automatic. And you could brush extra pink on there. Bring your brush size up. No, not that much. Maybe about there. And just kind of sweep it around some of the edges. Not all of them, but just around some. And then you can kind of get even more of that pink in. You don't have to do it to every petal, just the odd few. A little bit towards the center, get the centers popping a bit. You can put some more purple in here. And you won't need to blend that again. You can just leave it. The airbrush is really kind of a natural blender anyway. Need it on freehand. I was wondering why it wasn't working. Just trying to highlight it with the pink a little bit because pink is kind of the color that's standing out the most for this picture. Fixing up my shading, fixing up my highlighting. And like I said, if you wanted to, you could go to automatic mode and you could go to your blur tool and you could blur this a bit. Bring your opacity all the way up and then you could blur it. So you wouldn't have any of the texture really. You just kind of blur all that texture out and keep the color. It's all up to you. I kind of like the texture a little bit. All I think I'm going to do is just go around the edges of the picture and blur that, and then I'm going to leave the texture going outward so it kind of gives a cool illusion. And then that's it, guys. That is my sugar skull. Thank you so much for joining me today. We'll have some new and fun tips and tricks for our next tutorial. Please list any ideas or suggestions that you have below. And you could take this further too. Like you could highlight the rose and put white on there. You could take out the laser tool and add sparkle. There's so much stuff. You can keep on going and going and going with your pieces. But for today, I think this has accomplished what I wanted to show. And again, have a great day. Thanks for joining me. This is Brienne from Pigment. Take care, everyone. Bye.